I only ever had one unexplained occurrence happen to me my whole life. And it happened right after my father's father, my grandfather, passed away. All right, so one night I'm up here in the kitchen, making myself a little snacky snack. It's dark. I didn't turn on all the lights. And I keep hearing noises coming from down there. Just noises, and I'm like, hello? Nothing. Oh, hi, Lula. So yeah, I'm like, hello? Is someone messing with me? I come over here and I look down there. Our dog at the time had a big couch right there. And I look down and he's passed out. He's sleeping. So I'm like, all right, he doesn't hear anything. There's probably nothing. Like, I'm gonna trust him on this. So I go back to making my little snacky snack over here. I keep hearing the noises. So I turn around and look. And this is what I saw. So I see this dark shadow, looks like it's peeking at me from around the wall. I'm like, hello? Who the hell's fucking with me in the middle of the night while I'm trying to get some food? All of a sudden, I hear growling. I come over and I look. Our Great Dane that was down here is no longer sleeping. He is standing up, hackles raised, growling at the exact spot where I thought I saw a shadow. I still can't explain it. I'm not saying it's a ghost, but nobody would fuck with me like that. And it never happened before nor since. So I don't know.
I have so many stories. I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible, so I'm just gonna start with like a few of them. Basically, when I was 2, my mom married my stepdad and we moved into his house. It was in a country club. That's very important for some of the stories that I'm gonna tell. The lore of the house was basically that there was a house fire and a little girl died in there. Keep in mind, I'm 2, I can't read, okay? In the back of the house, we had a huge playhouse type deal, and it had the name Emily in it. My mom painted it as soon as we moved in. So obviously I can't read it, I don't know. And I'm literally like friends with a girl named Emily, and I'm telling my mom all these stories about Emily, right? So she's thinking it's someone at school, blah, 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 blah. And then she comes to like check on me. Keep in mind I'm 2 or 3 at this point. And I'm in there playing and I'm like, Emily, stop that, whatever. And she can literally see Barbie dolls levitating. So at a very young age, this thing becomes so attached to me. I swear, like, I just heard something. And in my room, like, it follows me everywhere. And in a way, I feel like it kind of protects me. But in another way, I can't even talk about that. I'm literally so stressed, I'm shaking. I literally have cold chills. Okay, so this thing would get very aggravated. My mom really didn't believe it at first, but this thing would get very aggravated as I got older and I wasn't at home as much before I think it started following me. And my mom has told me stories about how I would go to my grandparents' house for the night or for the weekend, and that's when it really started to like happen, where the cabinets would open and close. You could hear screaming at night or crying. We had hardwood floors all throughout the house, and you could hear footsteps and like maybe like rolling of a ball kind of. But I remember one story in particular that still haunts me in my dreams to this day. This is 20 years later, literally 21 years later. My mom got me a like collectible doll. It had a Chinese stamp on the bottom, and it was like dressed up like Tinkerbell. I was so excited about this doll, and the first night I got it, I put it on my dresser. I was laying in bed looking at it, and its head started turning around in circles and blinking. So I was like, okay, this is really weird, like whatever. So I took the doll to my mom. I was like, you have to throw this away. Like, it was scaring me. This is the first time I've ever been really scared in my life. So she took it outside. I watched her throw it in the outside trash can, the trash bin, and I went to bed. The next day, I freaked out because I went to my mom and I was like, I know it's in the house still. And this is still, like, a lot of this is coming from my mother. Like, I remember this vaguely, but I was 3 years old, so this story comes from my mom. And I started searching the house everywhere for it, and I eventually ended up in the pantry. And I climbed up the pantry, and it was sitting at the top of the pantry. My mom had brought it back in, and I freaked out. Like, I could literally hear this thing talking to me, and So my mom and I drove, and, like, we threw it at the junkyard. Like, it was gone. She's probably torn up somewhere, hopefully. I have so many more stories. I'm just gonna say one more. We ended up moving out of that house. God, I have so many stories. I don't even know which one I want to say. My grandma came to paint the house after we moved out, and in every single room we had intercoms, so you could, like, talk to people through the other rooms. You can listen to the radio. The master function to, like, turn the radio on was in the kitchen, and she was in the bonus room, which was the only room upstairs. She said she was upstairs painting. It was super late at night. All the lights shut off, like the power had gone out, and then the intercom was cycling through all the channels really, really fast, and it was like, get out, get out, get out of my house, and, like, screaming at my grandmother to get out of the house. And then she said she heard someone running downstairs, and she said she sat in a corner upstairs, like, hidden behind things for hours because she literally was too scared to move. Okay, I'll tell one more. Another time, same instance, we were moving out, and I think it was mad that we were leaving, which I don't know why, because she ended up following me, unless it was a different spirit, but this thing literally followed me everywhere, still does to this day. But we had a friend who just passed away, RIP, but his name was Jeff. Not my friend, my parents' friend, because I was young. And he was climbing up our attic, and we had, like, the stairs that you pull out of the ceiling. So he was climbing up the attic, and he was pulling boxes down and handing them to my dad, and he was up there for a minute, like, not moving. And we were like, hey, like, my dad was like, bring the boxes down. He goes, I can't, I'm stuck, like, something's grabbing me. And then he screams, and he, like, falls back. He had 3 huge scratches all the way down his back. It looked like a vulture. I don't even know. So yeah, I have so many more. It's really stressing me out. Like, I literally still have chills everywhere. Oh my god.
This is my 3rd attempt at trying to make this video, and either it gets deleted or, like, the sound doesn't work, like, weird glitches are happening. I don't know why. So I'm gonna try this again. So when I moved to Indiana with my family, I was about 8 years old. We moved into a house in a town called Sweetser. And prior to this, like, I didn't know that, like, I mean, I believe in ghosts now, but, like, at the time I didn't think ghosts were real. I thought it was just stuff in movies. Very religious family, so I was always told, when you die you go to heaven or hell, and that's it. So we moved to this house, and it started off with, like, I would maybe hear somebody walking around upstairs where me and my brother's rooms were. I would see, like, shadows moving on the wall. As I got older, I always heard a child crying in this one specific corner of my bedroom, like on the opposite side of where my bed was at. Every night I would hear a child crying. I would turn my music up all the way up as loud as it would go because I knew I was going to hear it, and it always scared me. But I think 2 of the more disturbing things that happened at this house actually happened to my little brother, and then after that, my dad. It was a lot more intense than anything I had experienced in terms of that sort of thing. So one night I was staying the night with my grandparents. They lived in the same town, just, like, on the other side of town, and my parents knew that I was going. Like, it had already been planned that I was going to stay with them that weekend, and my brother was going to stay at home because he was younger than me, and we just, you know, siblings sometimes need space from each other, I guess. So my parents are in the room, which is on the ground floor of the house, on the opposite side of where the staircase was that led up to me and my brother's room. And so they're in their bedroom, they're watching TV, whatever. They hear my brother start yelling from upstairs, and they're, you know, wondering, maybe he's playing, is he being really loud, what's going on? So he busts into my parents' bedroom, and he's crying, he's yelling, he's, like, really upset, and he says, Katie won't stop trying to scare me, can you please tell her to leave me alone? Now my parents know that I'm not home, so they kind of look at each other, and they look at my brother, and they're like, what do you mean Katie's trying to scare you? Like, like, what do you mean by that? Because they didn't want to tell him I wasn't home because they wanted to hear what he had to say first, so they didn't freak him out. And he said, Katie keeps coming into the hallway with her blanket over her head, and she keeps staring at me. And every time I tell her to stop, she just keeps staring. And then she'll walk back into her bedroom, she'll come back out, and she'll just keep staring. And this freaked my parents out, because up until this point, I was the one that spoke up about it the most. Sometimes my brother would say things, but we were always told it was our imagination, that we were seeing things, hearing things, whatever. So this did freak him out, and my dad told me about it when I came home, and of course I was like, why would you tell me that? I sleep in that room. So then fast forward, keep in mind that my brother saw my face, me. So fast forward to a few years from now, we're about to move out of this house. I think this was in like maybe the last month that we lived there that this happened. So my brother was sleeping in my room with me because he always said he was terrified of stuff in his closet. He heard things in his closet, which that's creepy enough as it is. So he would sleep in my room sometimes. And we're like 12, I'm 12 and he's like 9 at this point, I think. So my dad is downstairs, we're upstairs asleep, my mom is at work, my dad's sitting at the computer in the living room, and he feels like a tap on his shoulder, and he hears my voice say, "Hey, Dad." And he turns around, he's like, "Yeah, what's up?" Didn't think anything of it. And he turns around, there's nothing there. Immediately, the same second that he turns around and acknowledges what he thought was me, my dogs, I had 2 big dogs at the time, they freak out, they start barking, the fur on their spine is standing up about this much. They take off to one side of the room, they both look up at the ceiling, and then my dad said it was the freakiest thing, perfectly in sync. Their heads start moving. They see something, and then they go to the other wall, and they stare, and their heads are moving in sync. And then my door slams shut upstairs. So my dad books it up the stairs, see what's going on, like he's freaked out. He goes upstairs, he opens my bedroom door. My brother and I are both just sleeping. We had like a little mini DVD player thing on to watch movies, because again, we didn't like when it was quiet at night, because that's when you hear things. So he takes one of my boxes of stuff that was packed up for the move, he puts it in front of the door, and he goes back downstairs. The second that he is off the stairs and back on the ground floor, my door slams shut again. He goes right back upstairs, opens my door. My brother and I are still sound asleep, and the box of stuff that he put in front of the door is on the opposite side of the room, spilled over. So he's really freaked out now. He calls my mom, he's like, "When are you coming home? Like, this is what's going on, I'm scared." And I don't think he actually told us about it until later, and to this day, I mean, this was like, gosh, I don't even know, like almost like 15, 16 years ago maybe, and my brother doesn't remember anything. Like, anytime I bring it up, we talk about the creepy things that happen. Like, my dad remembers, my mom remembers, my brother's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like he completely blocked it out. But I think what sounds unbelievable, like when I talk to people about this, is like, I was young, my brother was young, they're like, maybe it was your imagination, maybe you were like processing trauma and, you know, whatever. But what makes me question it now is like, my brother saw my face, my dad heard my voice, and the more I learn about different supernatural things, the more it freaks me out, because of, you know, mimics. And yeah, so it just freaks me out. Once we moved out of the house, nothing happened at our new house. Nothing's really happened actually to any of us since then. The house I live in now, sometimes I think I see stuff out of the corner of my eye. I might see shadows move around, but nothing that makes me feel unsafe. Nothing that seems to have like a negative presence, so I don't really think anything of it. But yeah, that, to this day, anytime I think about that house, it gives me chills, and I don't know. I think I try to talk about it to people I trust, but people kind of look at me like I'm crazy, so I'm intrigued to see what you guys think about it. So this, don't remember how old I was having a birthday party with some friends, and we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, so my birthday party was literally just having people stay the night. We watched movies, pop some popcorn, just something simple. And at some point in time, me and all my friends fell asleep. We had like a sectional like an L-shaped sectional, and then on the other side we had just like a regular sofa, and I was sleeping on the regular sofa. My friends were on the other sides of the sectional, and then we had like a little air mattress thing in the middle of all the couches. So I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm on the couch. All the lights are off. Now, at this time, I don't remember what was wrong with our kitchen light, but for some reason, if you turn the kitchen light completely off, then it took like, I don't know, like hours to like power up, I guess, and like fully light up. So I told my friends, don't touch the light switch, we can't turn the kitchen light off. But when I fell asleep, somebody did. So I wake up, it's pitch black downstairs, everybody's sleeping. My 2 dogs were on the couch with me, and I'm just kind of laying there. I'm a little creeped out because, like, for obvious reasons, I was not a fan of the dark. So I'm just kind of like laying down, just waiting to eventually fall back asleep, and then I think I hear something from upstairs. Oh, and my brother was downstairs with us, by the way. He liked to hang out with all my friends. We all kind of hung out together when him and I weren't like mad at each other, basically. And my brother was not an infant at this time. He was maybe like 7 or 8. And so I hear something upstairs, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what is that? And then it gets louder, and I realize it is a baby crying, like a newborn baby crying from upstairs. My brother and I didn't have TVs in our rooms at this time, so like there was no possibility that someone left the TV on, there was a show or something like that. Like it was just a baby crying from, it sounded like coming from the top of the stairs, like in the hallway area. My dogs sit up and they kind of like, you know, they look, they don't bark or growl or anything, they're just staring in the direction of the stairs. So I'm freaked out. I got up, I ran to my parents' room. I tried to wake them up. My parents are also very heavy sleepers. It's a common theme in my family that we're heavy sleepers. So I couldn't get them to wake up. So I run back to the couch and I just lay there. And the baby crying gets louder and louder and louder. So at this point, my heart is racing. I'm terrified. It sounded, after a while, it like would stop and then it would come back, and it kind of sounded like it was getting like farther down the stairs, like closer to the ground floor where me and my friends were at. So for some reason in my head, I thought if I turned the TV on really loud, that like it would help or like make me feel safe. So I got up, I like ran up, I turned the TV on, I turned the volume up, I lay back down, and I'm still just like laying there waiting for this sound to stop. Then I hear something run down my stairs and run a perimeter around my living room. And so I'm like just laying there frozen, like I don't know what to do. I'm definitely awake. And then it starts crying again, but it back upstairs. Not like I heard something run downstairs, but when I heard the crying start back up, it was back upstairs in the hallway area where I heard it the first time. So then one of my friends who was laying on the ground on the air mattress thing, she sits straight up and she turns and looks at me and she goes, "Can you hear that? Is there a baby?" So at this point, I'm like, thank fucking God somebody else, sorry, language. Thank God somebody else can hear this and I'm not completely crazy. So I climb down on the air mattress with her. We're like laying on top of my other friends and they're just like passed out. And we're just like holding each other. We are terrified. We stayed up all night till the sun came up. Once the sun started to come up, we felt like brave enough to go back to sleep. Eventually the crying stopped. I honestly can't remember when it finally stopped, but we were just like so terrified. And so of course, as soon as we all wake up then later in the day, we're telling my friends, we're like, did you guys hear anything last night? Did you wake up when this happened? And nobody knew what we were talking about. It was just me and my friend that heard it. We lost touch. She eventually moved to a different school, but I know for a while when she still went to school with us, we would talk about it all the time because I didn't even have to say, oh, I hear a baby crying, and her be like, oh yeah, me too. Like, no, she sat straight up and looked at me terrified. It was like, is that a baby? So yeah, completely freaked me out. That was, like I said in my previous video, I never really saw anything myself. I would just hear things a lot, and that was one thing I will absolutely never forget. I always kind of found it strange though that's the only instance I heard a baby crying. I would hear a child crying in the corner of my room all the time, but it was like, it sounded just like a kid crying. Like it wasn't an infant. Like this was like the sound of like a newborn baby, like wailing because it's hungry or needs its diaper changed or something like that. Like it was the absolute weirdest thing I've ever experienced. myself personally. Yeah, it's I don't like it. It still freaks me out to this day.
This trend was made for me. I have had a handful of experiences, but we're gonna focus on the first one that I ever had. So where I grew up primarily was like a community with townhomes, so like they all look the same, they're all connected, you get it. And when we moved in, it was a brand new build, so no one else had ever lived there, and I do not remember an ounce of activity prior to this day. So I was probably 11 or 12, and we had a rare moment where I was left home alone. And so I am trying to take a nap on our love seat, but I want to reiterate to you that I was not asleep at all. And so I'm laying on my side, eyes closed, and I roll over onto my back, eyes still closed, and I lay there for probably a few minutes. And then I open my eyes, and this close from my face, okay, is a man staring at me. He did not look like a ghost. He looked very real, like flush in the face. He was a white guy, short dark hair, short dark trimmed beard, and ice blue eyes. I could pick this man out of a lineup to this day. This happened, I'm almost 32. I was like 12 when this happened. And so I think I'm getting kidnapped because he looks so real. So we are just, I am eyes bugging out of my head. I am so freaked out. I'm blinking, he's not going away. And so I'm like, oh, fate is sealed. I don't even want to see what's about to happen to me right now. So I pull my covers over my head after probably a minute of us making eye contact. And I just wait. Because again, he looked so real. So I wait and I wait and I probably lay there for a couple of minutes and nothing is happening. And I don't hear anything. Like I don't hear breathing. I don't hear footsteps. I don't hear any kind of movement. And so when I take the blanket back off, he's gone. I run around that house and I check every window and every door and everything is locked from the inside. Nothing is broken. There is no way that he could have gotten in there, period. But he couldn't have gotten in there without me hearing him, and he couldn't have left without me hearing him. Because I was right next to the door to our backyard. So like if somebody's coming in, like that's definitely how they're coming in. And nothing. I think what was the most odd about that whole thing was the way he was looking at me. It was not this like menacing, scary look. It was kind of like a, what are you type of thing. But I was so scared because again, I think I'm getting abducted right now. So that was the only time I ever saw him in that form as like a full body apparition, if you will. After that, I started seeing shadow people in that house regularly, all of the time. I don't know why. I think I was seeing him as a shadow person because it felt the same. It felt like a male, but it didn't feel like a scary, they want to hurt me. But I was also the only one seeing it, to my knowledge, that I know of. And I do have some stories about that if you want to hear, but it's kind of odd the way that they choose you, you know?